First time trying this Huddle 01 webinar platform. It seems to be working. All right, so it is recording. All right, so thanks everyone for joining. Pardon for missing our last community call last week. Obviously, last week I was out of sorts, caught COVID, the week before that, so I was kind of battling through that. Happy to report that I'm back to normal now, so feeling pretty good and getting back into the swing of things. So
happy to hear that.
Sorry?
I said very happy to hear that, Houston.
Yeah, I was feeling like crap for a few days there, but it wasn't that bad. Just very, very tired. So yeah, just had very little motivation. It reminds me of being in university and smoking too much weed and not not able to get off the couch. Just like having no motivation. So that's what it kind of felt like for like 2 weeks. So why don't we get started? So we do have a handful of community call items to cover today. And maybe what I'll do before we launch into things, because we are recording this one, and I thought, because we haven't talked about it in a while, maybe what I'll quickly do, give me like just 2 minutes to give an overview of what we're trying to accomplish here, so that we're kind of aligned, because I know we have a couple of folks here who are joining for the first time. And then there could be some new folks who are listening to the recording. So I'm going to take a bit of a step back, and I'm just going to review what we talked about before around kind of what we're trying to accomplish with the Montreal DAO. So we're kind of renaming this thing now. We're kind of calling it the actually, I don't want to show this particular slide there, so maybe I'll show this one over here. We were calling it DeFi Montreal DAO before, but I think we decided to be a little more encompassing of what we can make this thing. And ultimately, I came up with this slide here to kind of represent what this thing would be about. And I think in this call, what we're going to do today is just kind of to break down further what are some of the. I think what we need to get is a little more clear around what is we want to focus on in the long term, and then begin to build towards that. So we've had a lot of good discussions so far, but now it's the time to let's begin to build this stuff and get some more alignments so that we're working in the same direction. So at a high level, DAO stands for a decentralized autonomous organization, and essentially what we're trying to do here is we're trying to create a community that is not just a social community. It is that, of course, but also it's a social community with a shared treasury. And because it is a shared treasury, that means it allows anyone who owns a part of that treasury to begin to have an ability to actually participate and then contribute in a way which is unique to the DAO structure. Typically when you join a community, you're a listener or a lurker, and you just kind of follow along what the leader does. But with ownership comes a bit of responsibility and the ability to actually enact change. So let's talk about it from the top level here. So what's the scope of it? So first off, by being involved in the DAO, either as a token holder and or a contributor and or a member or one of the key contributors, is you'll have the following, get the following kind of abilities. So for number one, it's participative, as I mentioned already. It's more collaborative because it means that the direction of the DAO and this community is really dependent and community driven. Number three, it's more cooperative. That means because we do have a shared structure, that means a lot of things will come to consensus, and that we get consensus when we deliver on projects or deliver on ideas. Fourthly, the group itself is distributed, so that means you can contribute from anywhere you live. You don't have to be necessarily in Montreal, like our friend Jocelyn. He's in PEI, right? So you can be really anywhere. Decentralized. So ultimately, right now I'm kind of taking the charge as it's early in the project. But if I get hit by a bus tomorrow, anyone could technically step in, right? If you have the tokens and the ownership, once the DAO stands up, and anyone can step up and be the leader. And lastly, autonomous. So that's the same thing. It doesn't have to be a single individual who calls all the shots. In the sense, this thing can drive itself, and it's organic in that sense. So the second step down is the stake. So what's your kind of buy-in? Well, how does it actually work? Well, number one, to create a DAO, you have that shared treasury. So that shared treasury uh, comes from either people from the actual community itself, either comes from a number of ways, but number one, the community can make money. So, for instance, by doing events and things of that nature. Number two, people can buy into the community by buying its tokens or its NFTs. The community itself can grant tokens as a means of rewarding members, contributors, and people can even earn it. So, for instance, let's say the DAO really needs some people to step up to do some design work, do some dev work, to do some promotional work, to do some biz development, whatever it may be, and people can contribute that way and earn tokens. And that's what the value comes from. Is the value comes from the having an ownership in that treasury. So obviously the DAO can kick off rewards. So when we talked about kind of this idea last week, where if people are bringing interesting projects and ideas that are relevant to a DAO, the DAO could kick off rewards to those contributors. Obviously, there's tokens, so the appreciation of the tokens. So if the DAO is actually making money, so think of the DAO just like any business, right? So typically with a community like this, you'd have to structure it in one of two ways, right? So a normal community that gets created through Meetup.com, let's say 5 years ago, 3 years ago, it'd have to be done in one of two ways. Either one, let's say the community got any big, that is. If it was a one-person community or five-person community, then that's a moot point. But let's say a community that does get big, how does it have to structure itself? Because typically, any community that's going to get big will ultimately actually begin to create some value, and will actually begin to make some money, right? So the community has to put together events, or has to actually accumulate some sort of capital so it can get members together and do things as a community. And so that means that community does have to report taxes, right? In Canada, legally, if you're collecting money, you do have to report taxes on that income. So as a community, you kind of had two choices. Either A, the community structures itself as a nonprofit, right? So you create a nonprofit for this thing and you run it that way. Or B, the person who's the head of that community collects the money and then pays taxes on anything they want to claim in terms of the revenue that's captured in the community events, right? So in this case here, we're talking about is having the DAO own the treasury, and because right now DAOs are kind of in a weird space, they don't fall under any particular jurisdiction. Right now, DAOs don't have to pay taxes on-chain earnings. Now, this could all change, quickly. I'm not saying it's not going to change. It could definitely change. But for now, unless a DAO interacts with the real world, and let's say tries to buy real world assets or something to that effect, then the DAO may not necessarily have to pay any taxes on that. So that's just interesting, interesting situation as it stands now. So the tokens can obviously appreciate in value, as the tokens are a representation of the value of the treasury. And then NFTs are, non-fungible tokens, and essentially DAOs can issue those as either badges to represent, contribution, or to represent a particular gatekeeping aspect to that NFT. So for instance, maybe you have to have one or more NFTs to join a certain event, right? So if you want to join the inner circle, or if you want to be part of the planning committee, or whatever it is, or you want to be part of the DeFi team, or the investment DAO team, then you need to have a particular NFT to designate that you're part of that sub DAO, or whatever structure in that DAO that takes. All right, so that's the value that can accrue there. And think about it, right? So let's say there's a part of the DAO creates an investment DAO, and that thing does well. The only way to get into that investment DAO is through an NFT. Well, technically, a person could sell their NFT to another individual, right? Because it's an open blockchain. That's how it would work. So let's say you're done with the DAO, or the investment DAO. You invested some money, you made some money, and for whatever reasons you want to cash out, and you don't want to participate anymore. Maybe you're moving, you're going, off world. You don't want to participate anymore. You could actually sell that NFT to somebody else, or just transfer it to someone else, and that person, by virtue of having the NFT, can now join that gatekept area of the DAO. All right. So because of the structure, there's a board, right? So the people, there's a core group of contributors, early contributors, who form a board. all the plans for the use of the treasury is captured on the blockchain, so there's full transparency there. You can run reports to constantly see what the value of that treasury is worth, and any of the decisions that are to be made in regards to that use of the treasury, or any big decisions that are to be made on behalf of the DAO, can be put to a poll, and that poll can either be on chain or off chain, and that would be on chain, off chain governance. So to wrap things up, benefits, profit sharing, right? So if we're all devoting ourselves and putting ourselves and contributing to this thing called the DAO, it's basically a business. So basically, what we're doing here is we're thinking this business, and hopefully that this is what I'm trying to instill here, is that think of it basically is a business because it is a treasury, and we're actually trying to get that treasury to grow. So ultimately, we do need to think about the business model for this thing to make it successful. Because unless it's a nonprofit, we just want to run it as a nonprofit, then we don't have to worry about profit sharing, right? Value growth, that means over time, you hope that whatever the DAO is doing, it's accruing value, and ultimately that value should go back to the token holders and those holders of the NFTs. Fourthly, you get voting rights. That's one of the benefits, of course, as mentioned already. The rights themselves, right? So that gives you rights to the services, or maybe, for instance, if you have a certain NFT that allows you to go to certain in-person events, that gives you or confers you rights. And finally, status, right? So maybe if you get involved early, then you're an early OG to the project, and also that confers status. All right. So that's at a high level. That's the idea of the DAO here. What we're trying to build with the Montreal DAO. I think in the last couple of weeks, we've taken a couple of different directions here, and I just want to take it a step because we haven't talked in a few weeks. So a lot of us haven't talked in a few weeks. So maybe what I'll do now is I'm going to go back to our initial talking points, and I want to take a step back here and just I just want to make sure that we're all level set and that we're just kind of all driving in the same direction in terms of what the DAO is. The Montreal DAO is. Okay, so I'll take a little pause there and looking for your feedback. Questions? Comments?
All sounds good, Houston. I mean, it's a great recap.
Awesome. Jocelyn? So the reason why I'm taking a bit of a step back is because the investment DAO, we talked about that last week or 2 weeks ago, and we started to put some things on paper. And so for the folks who weren't on that call 2 weeks ago, some of us on the call were interested in co-jointly working on a kind of a sub DAO of the Montreal DAO, and that's this investment DAO. And I think the investment DAO is a great idea, but it is a kind of a sub DAO of the main DAO. So in a sense, the investment DAO is a group of individuals who want to pool their monies together and have a investment philosophy that would then go off and invest that money. So it's kind of a what's the word for it? An investment club, right? So kind of a Web 3.0 investment club. So we're using a DAO to allow everyone to pool their assets together, and then ultimately DAO would vote on the strategy and the investment decisions for that treasury. But pursuant to that, going back to the point of the Montreal DAO, is the Montreal DAO, I think, it is that funnel, right? So we ultimately, the ability for the investment DAO to be successful is pursuant on the Montreal DAO being successful, because the way we get access, in my mind, the way we get access to early stage projects and people coming and talking to us and presenting to us is by having a vibrant community, right? So projects will be way more comfortable or more motivated to talk to a large community of it's 1,000 individuals versus a group of 5 individuals, right? So if we have a vibrant community that of passionate Web3 or crypto enthusiasts, not everyone has to be an investor, but some people want to learn, and not everyone has to be an investor. They can be builders. They can be folks who want to participate tangentially outside just being a dev or or a investor, you can be a user of these things too. Like for instance, there's a lot of things like the metaverse or the NFTs, where it's very simple to get involved, and you don't have to necessarily be an investor or a developer in that space to benefit from those products. So I think ultimately, if we can create that positive flywheel where the Montreal DAO continues to deliver great events, it will continue to attract new people. Those new people contribute back to the community. We create that high level of engagement, and it creates that flywheel, right? People bring in new ideas. We get a chance to meet new people, and those new people attract a larger network, and ultimately, it allows us to have access to more deal flow, to more new projects, and projects are more willing to speak to us and share with our community.
I agree with that. I'm enthusiastic about new technologies and new projects. I'm chasing devs actually right now, but devs may or may not. Some may very well be interested in an investment DAO, but they may not. But to also make connections, because it's all about networking too. So
absolutely,
that would be a good.
Yeah, and that's why I think the investment DAO is definitely a sub DAO of the main DAO. But I think the folks on the investment DAO. That doesn't mean that like I definitely want to motivate you to also work on the main DAO, because this thing doesn't work without the main DAO. All right, so if we're just an investment DAO and we don't contribute to the main DAO doesn't succeed, then it's going to be very hard for the investment DAO to succeed as well. So I want to actually, if there's no other comments, I want to actually pick Naga's brain here for a second, if he's still on the line.
Is my mic on? Can you guys hear me?
Yeah, I hear you. I don't see your handsome face, but I hear you.
Yeah,
so
well, every week I cannot wear my hoodie, so
you only have one hoodie.
I have no hoodie now, so that's the problem.
Yeah, don't show yourself without a hoodie on. All right. Yeah. So, but I think Naga, the reason I'm picking on you is because was it yesterday? Yeah, yesterday. It was Thursday, right? You had a chance to sit on the Super DAO, the Super DAO call. They have a what is it? Kind of it was a 2-hour kind of compressed boot camp around DAOs.
Actually, yeah.
Okay. What was your takeaway from that event? Was there any the things that, because you're pretty new to DAOs and working in DAOs and contributing, what was your kind of big takeaways that you got from that call?
Well, basically, it's as I typed in yesterday, the guy took he wanted to go through 6 or 7, but we had only time for 4. So he was just picking volunteers, whoever submitted their DAOs, and going through their structure, and basically the I think I put it directly in the messages. Hang on, where can I find the messages? Just give me one. Oh, it's right here. Sorry. DAO chat. So basically, this guy was going through the the DAO name, purpose, category, and like poking questions. Okay, who are your team members, like founders, associates? How is it structured? Participants, and then this guy who's actually runs the Super DAO, he actually was giving ideas for each DAO who was there in terms of how to build a DAO, like some roadmaps. This is what you can do, this and this is what you shouldn't do, kind of thing. But yeah, I mean, one guy particularly, I liked it because he was actually into a real estate investing DAO.
Mm-hmm.
Which will fit into our investment DAO. So I wrote it on my papers in big letters. I actually have 6 pages of notes. I don't know why I took notes. Generally, I don't, but for this time I did. So I wrote on my notes investment DAO in big letters, and basically these guys are, if I can read my notes correctly, they are structured in they are incorporated somehow, and basically what they're doing is taking money from like the real estate, right? Retail real estate, like taking retailers money, and then going ahead and then buying the property. So they have like a team of a team means it's open, obviously, of
Mm-hmm.
a core team, and then they have an associate team who actually brings in the deals, do the due diligence, underwriting, everything, and the
Yeah.
real retail investors are simply just um, kind of investing if they like it. So it's
Do you
kind.
know? Do you remember the name of the DAO? What do you know the name of the DAO?
Yeah, it's REI, Real Estate Investing DAO. And they have a website, reidao.community. I didn't go there, but let me just quickly go there to see if it actually works.
Yeah.
Community.
REI
So
DAO.
Actually, it went.
is,
Yeah.
sorry, to jump in, is that to mimic like a REIT, like a real estate investment trust?
Exactly.
Same, same kind.
So what they're basically doing is investing in real estate on behalf of the retailers, right? So whenever they get and whatever assets they get, I'm assuming it goes back to the profits go back to the retailers in percentages of whatever they contributed.
That's interesting. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I
What are
think
they
I think
investing in? They investing in because I know I heard another one that was in. They were investing. There's one that was investing in the UK. And there's another one was investing in Singapore. Is this one investing in a particular location or geography?
these guys I
It
don't
says
know. Yes.
it says that they're based in Singapore.
Okay, so maybe that's one that I heard of before. Yeah.
I think yeah, it rings a bell to Singapore. I didn't write that point. And then there were a couple other DAOs. One is Waka DAO, and that's the first one. It was kind of funny because she was saying that they want to form this DAO to help people with mental health, right? So basically,
Mm.
what their idea is to raise money and stuff, and then whoever is going through need professional help, they would kind of cover the cost and stuff. Where she couldn't answer the question is what benefits is there for the investors slash members, right? And
Right.
she kind of failed there. She's like, yeah, I don't really know, kind of thing.
Yeah.
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 So I'm like, okay. And then yeah, one thing, most of the things like what this guy was suggesting is initially obviously to have a roadmap and gather together members and stuff, and then come up with ideas. Then he said, okay, we you can, like, pretty much for all the DAOs he was suggesting the same thing. Do a NFT
Mhm.
airdrop, which I don't know what that is, but I wrote the notes. Maybe someone can explain me later. NFT itself is confusing. Now they added a airdrop beside it. So, and then he said, then continue working and then go for a professional investors, and then issue coins and then put it on an exchange. I'm like, I was taking notes as much as possible. So basically, that's the that was what you're saying. And there was another one called Planet Punk, which was basically for artists, a community around artists and stuff. And he want to offer some services like events, betting, staking, everything. How many was there? One, two, three. There was only three. I think he had only no one, two, three. Yeah. Oh, we had time for three. I thought it was four. Basically it was three. Yeah. So pretty much, yeah, that's it.
No, that's good. Also, kudos to you, Naga. So kudos to Naga for checking out that, because it does take a while to get your mind wrapped around this stuff, and you really need, if it's your first time, either contributing to a DAO or getting involved with DAOs, it definitely pays to learn, like, and kind of explore what other DAOs are doing, how they're structured, and kind of how to work within DAOs, because it's definitely a new, basically a new model of organization, right? So it's very, very different, and I think yeah, there's a lot to learn. There's a lot of stuff that's being built still, but I think in the end, um, I think what we can do is we can find the more of this stuff we do, getting on these calls with these other teams, the more we can find some of these best practices. And what I think we're going to actually find is that there are some things that work well in the DAO structure, and that we can begin to incorporate that into our structure, right? So there's elements of community building There's elements of of community involvement. There's elements of of tokenomics, obviously, and how to do the right kind of airdrop. These are all things that are best practices, and that we don't have to reinvent for ourselves, right? So ideally, we don't try to reinvent this stuff, and that we're partnering or learning from other folks and other DAOs, and using their best practices versus stumbling and making a bunch of mistakes. And you really don't want to make a bunch of mistakes, especially when there's money on the line, right? So it's not a big deal when it's a a voluntary event where it's kind of nonprofit and free. But if we're talking about actually doing things properly and structuring this thing properly, then yes, that means you're going to involve money pretty early on. This is what makes DAO so much fun and crypto so much fun, is that from the beginning, money gets involved, right? It's not like a lot of businesses where you worry about the money afterwards. You come up with the idea first, and the money comes after. The crypto, the money comes early, right? So that's what gets people interested and motivated to actually join DAOs and in cryptos, because the ability to participate is at the beginning, right? Versus at the IPO. So yeah, if you haven't had a chance, I've actually posted a small boot camp that Super DAO has. It's just a number of videos. I put that in the DAO chat. If you haven't checked that out yet, I definitely try to jump in there and go through these videos, because I think it's informative.
Yeah, and also Houston, I just pasted a link in the chat. They actually have a Super DAO onboarding, which was around, like, I believe 20 to 30 questions somewhere. So it really tells you, like, even if you don't answer, submit the form, it'll get us thinking on how we need to structure stuff and what are the points to think about.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I'll take a look at that. Thank you, man. Thanks for sharing. Any thoughts or comments on Naga's ideas?
That's great stuff, Naga. Thanks for sharing.
Yeah, no problem. I was home all week, so I said, okay, I'll attend this.
Yeah, time. Yeah. So, with respect to the
Hey,
DAO,
I was wondering, I can't see the link in the chat.
It's in the DAO
Yeah,
chat.
did you post it in Discord? Oh, it's in Discord?
Yeah, in the
It's in
Discord.
Discord.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, it's in the
Okay.
Discord.
I hear you. Sorry.
Yeah, that onboarding. Actually, I did post that. Actually, I did reach out to those guys on that onboarding thing. This is why they wanted to schedule a call with us.
Oh, okay. You
yeah,
submitted already.
Yeah, I submitted that already. This is why I'm in conversation with those guys.
Okay.
But yeah, do check out, because I think I posted something earlier in the week. DAO Crash Course. Yeah, that's the one that I posted. No, that's when you posted. I posted one here called How to Build a Successful DAO, 7 steps, and then they have a Super DAO. What is it? Live session? No, is that it? Whatever. Anyways, it's there. If you click on that link, they have like a number of videos. Anyways, sorry, Tony, you were saying something?
Wrong button. Yeah, no, I was just wondering in terms of like on what platform, or who's is there a platform that you've chosen with respect to launch this DAO, or is that something that needs research, or is that the Super DAO thing that you're referring to? Is that basically a...
Yeah, so we actually have a Notion site set up. So if you want to join the Notion site, just send me your email. But essentially on that Notion site, we have a task board there, and kind of a list of ideas that we're compiling. And so we're evaluating a bunch of DAO tools right now. There's a number of them that are on that list. Super DAO is one of them. XDAO. There's a bunch of tools nowadays. Our Aragon that we're investigating, but yeah, we have not decided yet on a particular platform. Yeah, my preference would be a platform that is not on Ethereum mainnet, just because of the fees.
You don't like the gas fees?
I don't want to
You're
spend like
spending
$100
a lot of
bucks.
money because you're gonna need a lot, right, for the gas.
Yeah, I don't want to spend $100 just to place a vote. So
Yeah,
I don't
I
want to
mean,
spend $100 to try to make money, but to place a vote, I don't want to do that.
I'm totally in for spending money on gas fees. I like doing that.
You're supporting Ethereum, man. You should be happy to pay gas fees. Yeah. All right. So why don't I share what I learned from my discussions with Colony DAO. So Colony is actually another tooling platform. These guys are actually they're part of they've been in the DAO space for a long time now, since like 2018. And I jumped in the Discord, and they actually have a DAO, kind of I guess a DAO kind of, it's not a boot camp. It's more of a, like, it's a network. So they get founders together, and and these founders get together and get on regular calls to talk and go through some of the challenges they're facing. So so I hopped on the call with one of them, and we're just talking through the DAO that we're putting it together here. And he gave me some pretty good feedback. So kind of, he gave me three big ideas after he heard our pitch and what we're trying to do here. And I think the first one is, and I think Naga, I think you kind of said this in your notes, but I think number one, and I actually have that on our community call topic here, is he said we have to have a very, very clear mission for the DAO.
Yeah.
This is the only way we're going to attract people to the community, right? Especially when times are hard, when things get bad. Like, for instance, when Bitcoin, Ethereum drop 90%, a lot of people are going to be gone, right? So unless there's a very, very clear mission, most people won't stick around. And so, what can we do? Well, look, we need to be very, very clear about what we're trying to do here. Otherwise, if it's too touchy feely, all right, it's not solid enough, right? So sometimes, it just has to be something very, very clear and tangible. Versus that, the one we have now, I think, is very inclusive. So I'll just open up what we have now. But I think, he was challenging me and us to come up with something that was, you know more, even more precise, and very, kind of even spoke to a very, very directly to what we wanted to do. So right now, this is the notion, and this is what we have here. But it's to create a community of crypto, DeFi, Web3, investors, innovators, and enthusiasts with shared crypto values, shared desires in terms of equal opportunities, and a willingness to learn and exchange ideas. So that's very broad, right? So this mission statement is kind of broad. It's kind of soft in terms of, again, it gets a lot of people. It does encompass a lot of people, but doesn't actually say what we actually do, right? So this is actually, if we think of this as an actual, well, I'll take a step back because I'm going to talk about it at point 3. But he gave me an example is, like, there's this one DAO called Odysseus DAO, or Odysseus. I'll share the link later. Odysseus DAO. So their goal is, for instance, and I don't think that's to me, it's a difference between a mission and a goal. But their mission was to onboard 1 million people onto crypto and Web3, right? So it's very clear what that is. They're trying to onboard 1 million people into crypto, and that, onboarding, you could actually capture that by saying that means 1 million new people have opened up a crypto wallet, right, and funded it. You have Naga's DAO. Very simple mission statement, probably there, right? We purchase real estate, and then the income from that real estate gets passed back down to the investors. There's other DAOs like Kraus DAO. I don't know if you guys have heard that one, but that DAO wants to buy a basketball team, right? So very, very, easy mission statement. We want to buy a basketball team, right? So let's say they try to buy a basketball team, they fail. Well, the DAO's still in business, right? They're gonna keep going until they buy a basketball team. That's the mission of the DAO. There's other DAOs, for instance, a climate DAO, right, around climate change. So it gets very, very, so I think it just pays us to get very, very clear about what we're trying to do here, versus maybe trying to be everything for everybody. Does that make sense? Any comments about that? All right. So
Maybe
this
we should
second
buy.
point.
One comment from my side. I think it's a great idea. I've been thinking about the same. It is very vague, like our mission statement, or so it's got to be something more tangible. I couldn't agree more.
Yeah.
Same. So instead of a basketball team, let's strive to buy the Montreal Canadiens.
Yeah, exactly. This DAO, the thing with the Constitution DAO is the same thing, right? So the Constitution DAO, people, they were able to accumulate over $100 million within a week, less than a week, to try to buy the Constitution, right? So when you have a very, very clear vision, a very, very clear mission, then it's easy for people to rally around that. But when it's too fluffy, right? It's too kind of rounded, then people don't really know. Like, okay, that sounds kind of cool, but what does that actually mean? And then how do I get involved, right? Because you don't know how to get involved, even if it's kind of too nebulous. So I think we can get a lot cleaner on what exactly we're trying to do here, so that everyone can say, "Yeah, I'm down with that idea," and then I know what I need to do, right? Versus, we're trying to be, I think, maybe too inclusive.
Yeah, and maybe it makes sense. I don't know. I'm just throwing this here in.
Go for
it. Just kind of food for thought. Maybe it makes sense to kind of have clusters. 5 people want to do a DAO, for example, a DAO to. You earlier mentioned the DAO to buy a basketball team. Well, maybe a DAO to buy a hockey team, or whatever, And another 10 people want to do a DAO for some kind of environmental project, rather than having one DAO that covers every single idea and be so vague, I don't know, just an idea.
Yeah, I don't disagree.
Interesting. Yeah, don't disagree. The only issue I would see there would be, and this is just me, right? Would we be diluting the power of community moving forward if we split too much?
Yeah,
it's just a question.
Yeah,
it's just a question.
Yeah, exactly. That's kind of my angle. Would be as well is there more power being the Montreal DAO and representing Montreal? But then being a Montreal DAO is kind of nebulous, right? That just means like, what does that mean being a Montreal DAO? So obviously, you can get a bigger audience being a Montreal DAO, and if we could somehow make that work, then you'd have a really big funnel that could then flow into these other sub DAOs. But the hard part is, if we do want to do a Montreal DAO, we really have to do the Montreal DAO. What does that mean? What does that mean to be a Montreal DAO? That means in this way you have to be supportive of Montreal, right? That's kind of broad. So. I guess I'm kind of on the fence there.
Yeah, it is broad, but there are some specific things. Sorry, can you hear me now? Yeah.
Yeah, I hear you, Tony. Is that you? Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Montreal has some unique attributes. For example, we're like one of the big AI hubs, there? Right? So, yeah, Marcus, I think we're losing you.
Yeah, Marius, like we hear you, man. We hear you.
Okay, I wasn't able to hear you guys.
Okay.
Okay, I've turned off my video. Maybe this the
you were saying something in Houston, and then
Montreal has
maybe it's my internet connection. I'm sorry for that.
No worries. One characteristic of being a Montreal DAO or unique to Montreal that might relate to the whole crypto world would be the fact that we're a big AI hub here. We've got a very large AI community. I'm not part of that personally, but I'm aware of it. So that maybe that should figure in somehow, or as you say, what does it mean to be a Montreal DAO? So these I guess the questions we should ask.
Yeah, going back exactly. This is just first principle stuff, right? Like, what exactly do we want to rally around? It was a bit easier because what I think we've done here in a unconscious way is that we've actually introduced scope creep into what we're doing here, because before what we were doing was actually called DeFi Montreal, right? And we're creating a DAO for DeFi Montreal, which kind of made it a bit easier because it's just for investors, right? When you're doing DeFi Montreal, it's investors and traders. But as soon as you open it up and say now you're Montreal DAO, if you leave it too open, like we're saying already, then it could be basically anything that Montreal that involves Montreal. Right, AI, poutine, hockey. It could be anything, right? So we really, I think we have to either accept that we're going to be very, very wide and come up with a really big grand mission statement for Montreal, or just keep that name, but just say, hey, Montreal DAO does this, and maybe it is DeFi, maybe it is investing in Web3 projects, right? And that's just it. It's not a city project, right? It's not like, I'm not trying to clean up the parks in Montreal kind of stuff, right? So
or DeFi and festivals
so
or something.
That's just one idea there. So why don't I run through the other two comments that the guy had, and then I'll open it up again, because I think they kind of fit right in. So number two, his point is, we don't want to. I think what he was insinuating is that we don't want to rush into tokenizing the DAO, right? So I think that's an easy step to do now because of the tools that are out there. It's very easy to spring up a platform now, or spring up a DAO on these platforms, right? So within 5 minutes, you can launch a DAO on any one of these platforms and have tokens created for yourself, right? The issue with that is that ultimately it doesn't mean much to own a token unless that token, there's some value in that token, right? So who really wants to own a token of a non-productive project, right? And so that means the token has to have number one, value, and it has to have some sort of utility. And voting was not a significant enough utility. So simply voting, that's not a big enough incentive to drive people to want to take action, right? So before you launch your token, really begin to think. We have to think about, what's the utility of the token? What is the token? Do we believe that there's actually going to be value in the token because what we're doing? And secondly, how can people use that token, right? For instance, what you don't want to see happen is you don't want to see, because let's say we have a job board, right, which a lot of DAOs do, and a developer or designer, whatever, spends a month doing a job and designing a logo or putting together something, and we pay that person, rightly so, in tokens for their hard work. That person now sees the token, but every single day it trades, the token goes down in price, right? Now that's not a great incentive for other people or for that person to hold on to that token. This person just spent a month out of their life working on something, and they're basically left with a bunch of worthless tokens, right? So I think we have to be very honest with ourselves to make sure that if and when we do, launch tokens, that we're actually providing value to our token holders, right? Just like as you would shareholders, right? It's no different. Just because we can't issue tokens basically for free, it doesn't mean we should. So I think we have to be very, very clear that that when the time comes and the tokens come out, that we're using those tokens and they have utility. That means people can use those tokens in our ecosystem to either pay for events or do things productively with that token, as opposed to just something that just kind of melts like a cube of ice, right? Like you see all these tokens you see from a lot of these projects in crypto, you buy them and they just depreciate, right? They just melt, and ultimately we don't want to see that, right? That's just not the point of it. There's no point of having that kind of token, right? It just looks bad for the project overall. Okay. And the last one, and it ties in, is thirdly is we need to think of this as a business, right? So the core contributors to this DAO, we have to consider this as a business, and that means we have to manage the treasury like a business. So this means this thing has to create revenue for it to ultimately be sustainable, right? Unless we want to make it a nonprofit. So unless we have a treasury that's actually growing or creating revenue for itself, then you could imagine if and when you do issue a token, if the DAO is not making any money, it will just depreciate, right? So there's no point even issuing a token. So ideally, and I think we've talked about this before in the past, based upon what I presented, in a month or so ago, is that we do have ideas in terms of how the DAO can generate revenue, right? Through meetup events, through seminars, through conferences, through sponsorships. But these are all activities that we all have to get behind, right? And be on board with for the DAO to have to fund itself and to create a treasury. Because ultimately that's what it is, it's a business. So this DAO, whatever we call it, DeFi Montreal or Montreal DAO, it does have to generate money. right? So we all have to be on board with the revenue generation activities, so that this thing, can create that that positive flywheel. Because if this thing just loses money, it's not a great project. Maybe it's a good non-profit, but it's definitely not a good project if it just relies on a on a backer or an angel to just pay all the bills, right? So so those are the three main things, and I think they all tie together pretty well. Clear mission, token utility, and the last one is actually having a good business model that supports the DAO's treasury. So I think those all three things kind of tying together. Thoughts, guys? Ideas?
Well, that's some good broad strokes, Houston.
Yeah, good browser, exactly.
Yeah, broad strokes, but I guess we have to start giving some serious thought if you want to focus in on I guess how do you do that without as you say scope creep and I guess we got to figure out what the focus is and what do we want it to be.
Yeah. And I think ultimately, like we've begun to, like week in week out, we have a regular set of people who show up to these calls. That's organic, right? So that's what we have to work with. So I think what we have to do now is decide, what do you guys actually want to work on? Because like ultimately, like this is a completely voluntary thing, right? A DAO is completely voluntary. You can opt in and opt out, or opt out of the DAO. If you want to get involved in the DAO, how would what kind of activities would you want to work on that would help the DAO generate money, right? Because however, this is why the activities end up being important here, right? Because if we do want to get a DAO spun up, the DAO does need to have a treasury, right? So where's the treasury going to come from? If it's an investment DAO, then then you're asking for people to pull the money in voluntarily. At the same time, you have to wonder, you have to think about, well, why would people just put money into an investment DAO with no track record, right? So just being just being a realist there, like there has to be some sort of like edge that this investment DAO has that that an investor couldn't just get themselves by going on YouTube or Twitter, right? So the idea is, by having something like the DeFi Montreal DAO with Montreal DAO, by having this access to deal to if you do have this community, right, and you're able to connect and bring early stage projects to present and get to know these people through networking and social events, then you do get that positive that positive externality by having that association with that broader DAO, right? So that's the connection there. But again, ultimately, I think it's incumbent on is that the folks on this call and the folks who are listening is like, where do you want to get involved? Like, what interests you, right? If that is stuff that doesn't interest you, then that's great, because at least we know like what you want to get involved in. But ultimately, if we're talking about the DAO, like, how would you want to participate? And that's, I think, what we need to figure out, because we got to think of it like a business, right? Like, how do we want to generate money for this DAO? Should we just do the standard meetup way, where we can just run some simple events and grow it organically, right? And just go event by event, collect tickets, revenue, right? And some of that money flows back to the DAO treasury. Or or is there other ways that you guys or do you think we should pivot or do other things that can or do other things that can begin to create the DAO treasury?
Do you hear me? Do you guys hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. I think
Yeah. Okay,
who's
thanks.
stuck. Yeah.
So I think maybe a good idea would be to not only
Might break it up?
invest in early stage projects, but to also build them. So maybe we could have like a team of developers helping to build the projects, and that could be a source of revenue.
Yeah, it's a fantastic idea. Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And I think even before you even get to that stage, because I think there's obviously some longer term things that we can do to generate revenue for the DAO, and there's some shorter term things. So, for instance, if you're a dev and you can already begin to develop Web3 projects, or you know how to develop on blockchain, then Montreal being what it is, and there's so many students out there.
Equal opportunity for everybody in terms of monies, right? That's what the
Yeah.
promise of blockchain is, right? Or
Yeah.
Bitcoin anyway. And so I'm reaching out to devs. I'm reaching out to the universities now and getting some interest, but there's no reason why we can't tie them in a central place, which very much could be the Montreal DAO, and just have a centralized meeting place for, because every university's got their blockchain clubs or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
There's opportunity there for sure. And speaking to the qualifications to be able to teach, how to code, how to build or whatever, that's another problem in the whole typical, or the good part of the blockchain world is a lot of it's based in Solidity, which is not that easy.
Yeah.
You can get started in Solidity, but to be a top level developer in Solidity means that you probably need about 2 years experience in how to get around the hacks and how to audit properly, because that's the biggest downfall. You're spending 90% of your time auditing and making sure it's not hackable. And so there's a next generation, there's more than one chain that's coming out with easier languages, easier tools.
Mm-hmm.
There's one of the videos I remember watching. He says it's like the hair on fire scenario, right? Your buddy's hair is on fire, and so you hand him a brick, and it's the only tool he has. So he starts bashing his head with the brick to try and put it out, right? and if you held a bucket of water out, it's like, oh yeah, I'll take that. But that's what blockchain's doing now, right? They're banging their heads with bricks because the tools aren't that good.
Yeah.
So yeah, there's opportunity for sure. I think that's a great idea, as whether it's investing in early stage projects, and those could be the platforms that are building these tools. It's the old gold rush scenario.
Yeah.
The folks that
absolutely.
made the biggest money were the guys that were selling the picks and axes, not the
picks, exactly.
guys out there digging away and not getting anything. They still paid
selling
for
the jeans. You got to sell the jeans like Levi's.
Yeah. So those are great ideas. The early stage, and then try and create some kind of what that form is. Dev involvement, or whether it's educational or just project building, project ideas, which expands the networks that a lot of the universities have, and they talk to each other as well. And there's some sharp guys and gals that have created more nationwide type networks to try and do that already. I've got some calls coming up with some of those folks. But yeah, that's a good. I think that, to me, that would be a real benefit to a DeFi Montreal DAO, having that aspect.
And I think at the same time, whoever wants to participate in that, it's early going, right? So if you do begin to deliver obviously, as I mentioned already, like, I'm not qualified to deliver that kind of content, but it's so early going now that there really are no experts, right? So by someone who's brave enough, who's willing to step up and to learn the stuff and actually begin to to get their hands dirty and share and teach others, you're I guess, for lack of a better word or way of describing it, is you're kind of making a name for yourself, right? So if you do want to to separate yourself from the pack and show that your thought leadership, then getting involved this early stage and showing that you are that you do know these things, I think is it just shows your how progressive you are, right? So there's many other ways we can do this. I guess it's just quick brainstorming. But obviously the dev one is an easy. I think is an obvious one. I've been muddling around with ideas. Clearly there's an idea of, like, for me anyways, there's a clear idea of how, the reality is that very few people, normies, have actually touched DeFi, right? So maybe there's a chance for a group like this to do a kind of a white glove experience to help normies get into DeFi, right? So how, for instance, if someone wants to earn 10% yield, I'm not even talking about the 10,000 percent APYs. I'm talking about a simple 10% yield on stable coins.
Yeah.
How do you explain that to a normal person on the street?
Yeah.
Right? Where does that person have to go? Where are they going to learn that? On YouTube? On Twitter?
And there are videos being made to do that, and
Exactly.
in various platforms. But we could do something, a Montreal version of, for example, locally. What is it? ShakePay, right? That's a local Montreal company, isn't it?
Exactly. But where do people learn that stuff? It's all online. Like, you're not meeting anyone to do that, right? Like, if you're a high net worth individual, you're not used to doing that on the internet, right?
Well, it's interesting though. It's the motivated person. Like in my case, I decided I wanted to get into crypto because I think I'm missing something. There's obviously a technology evolving. So I decided 6 months ago to figure it out. And so I went online and I found these things. But I've met people since, and it's like, oh, ShakePay is just easy. All you need to do, and that personal interaction, which can come from a group, like a DAO, with meetups or whatever, and that could be part of the mission statement too, is to bring in, Joe Regular or Jane Regular and say, teach them how to get a wallet and get some, transfer some money from their account to a ShakePay account, and boom, you can buy Bitcoin with a tap.
That's it. And that's just buying crypto. That's the easy part, right? So then, like that, the next part is like get them involved in DeFi, which is for most people.
Yeah. Well, that's it. That's the wormhole.
Yeah. Most people are having a hard enough time just investing their money, and they need to have their brokers, and they need to have their investment advisors. Now to try to get someone to say, what, I can get you an easy 10% yield on stable coins, right? Now to try to talk through someone that on a Zoom call or on a YouTube, like if you're transferring any real amount of money, that's your first time doing it, it's kind of scary.
Yeah, no, yeah, it is something that I think the personal connection helps a lot, and having meetups. Well, one of the platforms that I'm Radix, we talked about it, very very keen on. They've already told me, look, Tony, if you want to do a Montreal meetup, we'll sponsor. So we can get funds for drinks and food or whatever to do meetups to present the platform, and that's again bringing in community to say, okay, here's how we can onboard people into this world.
Exactly.
And the Montreal DAO doesn't have to be specific to any given platform, and that's the beauty of it. We can have some diversity because you do want to have diversity.
But my idea was like going back to this white glove experiences as a way to actually monetize for the DAO, right? So you could have a charge-based service where you could actually onboard people, just like you do onboarding developers, right, onto these platforms and teaching them skills. We can begin to white glove investors into DeFi, right? So I know like Bull Bitcoin does something similar where they do like security audits and they help people set up multi-sigs, right? No, they don't help set up multi-sigs. They help people with their security setup, so the OPSEC. But this is the next stage, right? Like you can clearly see now, like once a person gets a certain amount of crypto wealth, you're gonna need to be able to protect that stuff. And if you're working with 7 million, 7 figures of value in crypto, you probably don't mind spending a bit of money asking for some help to secure that, all right? And so versus one person being on something on people are gonna want to meet people in person. Trusted people, not some random guy in an alley to help you do a multi-sig. But if you have a trusted venue, right, a trusted brand, then certainly I think people are being very comfortable, meeting people in person to help them with these things, right? So that's what I'm thinking, that white glove process where if people in the DAO here are experts in DeFi and crypto, then I think there's many ways that these activities can then ultimately be monetized and then float back float back to the DAO's treasury. So the DAO approach, the invest, appealing to to white gloving investors, like these are just kind of ideas that we can use to maybe explore to model up this business. But I like the idea of Tony with the Radix sponsoring things. I think we can definitely leverage that at some point in the future, and think of other things we could do. Not just with Radix, but obviously similar things. I think that's a great idea for the DAO as well, right? Like you said, we can be agnostic. We can certainly use sponsors, to make our events better and bigger, right?
Yeah, well, I mean, it's sort of like the bootstrap. If you get a little bit of help here and there to start getting, a core, and then the core from there can then sustain itself with our own
100%
organic event.
100%. But who was that person who volunteered that idea earlier about the developers? Was that Ted?
Yeah, it was Ted, I think.
Yes, that's me.
That's a good one.
I don't
Thanks.
hear anyone. We had an anonymous voice church chime in earlier. Then I don't know whose idea that was, but it was a good idea.
It was Ted. It was Ted. Ted, can you not hear Ted there?
Sorry?
He did say it was him. It's Ted. Ted was the one that brought that up.
Okay.
Do you hear me, Houston?
Yes. Is that you, Ted?
Okay, yeah, that's me.
Okay. Awesome. Do you have developer experience? Are you a dev?
Yeah, I have a job as a software developer, and I'm trying to learn smart
We're having
contract
some
development.
audio issues or
And,
something. Can you guys hear me? Oh, okay, there he is.
Do you hear me now? Or
Yeah, I hear you. Loud and clear.
Okay. So yeah, I have a job as a software developer, and
Okay.
I'm trying to learn smart contract development. Right now, I'm doing it with Cardano, and I'll try
Nice.
to see which blockchain might be the next one to learn.
Yeah.
Well, I
That's
can
excellent.
certainly guide you on
That's
my
right.
bias.
That's exactly the
thoughts
kind
there,
of people that we need to have in
Yeah.
our community. So, how far along are you, Ted? Are you have you started to develop projects? Or are you doing it more as a hobby, kind of in your spare time?
Do you hear me?
Yep.
Okay. So right now, I'm just learning as a hobby because Cardano is really hard. You have to learn a completely different language. So right now
Yeah.
it's more like a hobby, but if I'm able to transition full time, then it would be great.
Nice. Yeah.
What base languages do you work in, Ted?
In my job or for the smart contract
Well,
development?
other than the Cardano, I don't know what the language is specifically for Cardano,
Oh,
but what
for Cardano,
are the languages?
It's Haskell, but in my day
Haskell,
job,
yeah, that's
I
right.
do React and Java.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
And what was the other? Java and what?
React. It's a
React.
front-end framework. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and there's many ways I think we can do this, right? So, for instance, like if there's a person who wants to kind of lead that initiative, we can do a lot of stuff based on partnerships too, right? There's so many good organizations that are out there that are willing to partner up with other folks, right? So we could find experts, on the internet, and because we have an audience, right? We could split the revenue with them, right? So, for instance, an idea would be we find an expert who can deliver a 2-day workshop on whatever Rust, Solidity, even I think some of these other, there's one called there's actually 2 or 3 that are now that have Python as an engine you can use because it's such an easy language. Mostly not easy. It's but a lot of people know Python, so that they're people can now use Python to write smart contracts.
Really?
We can get some. Yeah. I'll share with you. I think I shared before, Nag. I think I shared 2 or 3 of them.
No one told me that. Okay, someone woke me up now.
I'll send someone's awake. So we probably partner up with some, we can find some folks who can deliver a 2 or 3 day workshop, and we could drive our audience to their workshop, do a kind of a co-venture thing, right? And we can split the revenue on that, right? And that ultimately floats back to the treasury. So it'd be up to us then to obviously market this stuff to our audience. So we just need to have a big enough audience, right, to be able to to deliver that kind of event. And that's how the treasury can quickly begin to make money here, right? So it's like you can see, there's a number of things we can do, right? It's just internet-based partnerships where, because once we're crypto native, right, we can begin to leverage these relationships, and once we have the audience, right, we're just connecting the dots. Whatever audience needs in Montreal, right, we can find the experts and source them, and and help them through that onboarding process, right? Like it goes back to our mission statement. Like, what's our mission statement? Maybe it is to onboard whatever 1,000 devs in 2022, or I mean, that's more of a goal. It's not a mission statement, but maybe the mission statement is to onboard the next generation of devs onto Web3, right? And get them away from Facebook, Amazon, Netflix, and Google, right? And Apple. And maybe for investors, it's the same thing. Like, we the next generation of investors, we introduce them to Web3 crypto, right? And and the goal would be to try to get 1,000 people the next year to open up wallets, or 1,000 people to open up MetaMask and to try out a DeFi protocol. Maybe that's that's a tangible goal, and maybe the mission is the onboarding part of it.
Yeah, no, those are good goals, specific goals, and the more broader mission statement could be something about encouraging the adoption of DeFi through bringing people, newbies to using, and bringing devs to improve on development, whatever. I mean, that's little. I'm not good at putting words together quick. I write them well down what I can think about it.
No, I was on your wavelength there. I was with you.
What about something like in the line of making Montreal the hub of cryptocurrencies or whatever in Canada?
Yeah, that's a good vision. Yeah. What does that mean by hub? So what do you mean by hub of? So what is how does that? How do you see that?
Well, you know how Miami is probably one of the crypto hubs in the US, where there's a lot of I don't know, where all the brains are, where people are creating new things, something like that. I'm just throwing this here into the round, it's into the to think about it. The only thing with this is, of course, Houston and everybody else, this is very vague. We all know, like, a goal or objective needs to be smart. So making Montreal the hub of cryptos is like, okay, what does that mean exactly? So it is, again, not very tangible, and I think we are looking more for something tangible. What I understood from the feedback from that guy that you mentioned earlier, Houston, right?
Yeah.
So it could be a little bit of an issue.
Yeah, it's the Montreal as a hub is an interesting idea, but it's counterintuitive with the decentralized technology. But I mean, you're right. I'm not saying it's not a wrong statement or whatever. Too many negatives. It might be more inclusive, like not making it the hub of crypto, but making it a resource or a local drawing card or whatever for the local community involved in the grander decentralized, because ultimately it's decentralized. That's the whole technology, right? But
Absolutely.
we can be the local attraction, if you will, for onboarding talent and usage of DeFi.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, I'm piling onto that. I would say it's there's things that we can control, and there's things we can't control, right? So if all of a sudden Montreal, Quebec decides to outlaw or ban crypto, then obviously that wrecks our mission. But at the same time, I think there's ways for us to be able to encourage people to encourage or onboard people into crypto, right? That is outside of the state, right? Whoever controls Montreal, whoever controls Quebec. So I think ultimately we have to talk about ourselves on how we can help Montreal, but not we're not necessarily trying to represent Montreal. If that makes sense.
Yeah, and the whole DeFi space is both. Everyone's talking about decentralization, but then we all become tribal with our different coins. So
Yes.
it's a constant push and pull, and it's the
Yeah.
nature of governments, and let's separate, let's get together, let's pull these provinces and make a country, let's split them apart. It's
Yeah.
human nature on many levels. But
That's very true.
yeah, I think the focal point, as you mentioned, Naga, is a good one. Like, let's be some sort of hub or some sort of attraction to talent, and maybe we can word it in a way that the local attraction in a generic sense, because maybe our DAO one day will spawn into local chapters elsewhere.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, that's it. Yeah.
Talking about talents, I mean, how about this one? And it's kind of out of the blue, building the first crypto university of Canada.
That's ambitious. I like that one.
Yeah.
That's ambitious. Yeah.
But it's concrete,
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. That's very concrete. That's a very concrete one. Yeah. Let me try to find that Odyssey. What was that? Odyssey DAO?
Oh, no,
This one called Odyssey DAO is the one. I think they had a very simple mission statement. That's the one that said, yeah, they're on Twitter here. What was their Twitter handle again? So it's very simple. Here it is. Is that the one? No. Anyways, keep going, guys. I'll find their Twitter handle for this one. Yeah, so I just found it. So I'll post a link in on Discord or in the DAO chat. But yeah, the handles are the mission statement that's on their Twitter handles. Pretty straightforward. It says, we're on a mission to onboard 1 million people to Web3. That's it. Register for our first bootcamp now to get quality Web3 education for free. So, it's a simple one, right? And that's it doesn't have to be too complicated. Something to think about. All right. Well, this we're coming in an hour and a half now of our call, and I know we're I'm in the middle. I'm in between you and the weekend. so let's just go back really quickly to the notes here, and I think we'll begin to put a pin in things. So one thing that we do need to wrap up on is so the mission statement, I think, needs to be settled, right? I think before we can really move forward, I think there's a lot of great ideas, but I think ultimately we all have to converge and agree on this mission statement. And this right now, we have there is a little too loose. So I think we have to put some like this, this week. I think we need to agree on it. Flatten this thing out and make it very, very straightforward. So, does anyone have any ideas on the mission statement off the top of the minds they want to write in Notion? Or we can try to wordsmith this thing offline in Notion, and people can just contribute to different ideas until we kind of get just iterate back and forth until we get something we like.
Yeah, is this available? Is this something I can find, or is this something you could screenshot and put out, and then at least because that's the kind of thing I would spend a lot more time. When
for sure.
You want to make a small, precise statement, you spend that much more time to get it down to a meaningful and get the right words. And that I wouldn't be able to do that on the spot. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, 100%. So just shoot me your email in Discord, like through DM me on Discord, and then I'll invite you to our Notion page where we have all this captured. And then we can wordsmith that. Folks who want to wordsmith it, we can wordsmith it. And then next week we'll revisit it again, and we'll try to get clarity on that. Because I think once we nail it, I think we'll just feel it, right? Like once we see it, we're like, oh yeah, that's it. Super, super simple, and we're like, okay, now I know what I need to do, right? All right, so the next one. So I want to So Tony, if you want to DM me, and then I'll invite you. Second last item here is, well, third last, but the last one's open discussion, so we've been doing that already. But that's around the group name. So I think we were gonna vote last week, but the group name was Montreal DAO. That was the group name. We had Montreal DAO and we had DeFi Montreal DAO. So I think last week we were leaning towards Montreal DAO. Has anything changed, folks?
I agree on that one. Yeah.
Montreal DAO?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's fine for me.
All right.
All
right.
Yeah, Montreal.
Well, this is it, guys. This is your last chance to disagree. Speak now or forever hold your peace, kind of thing. Otherwise, I'm locking it in. Once I click on this little green check box, it's just done.
It's on the
locked
blockchain.
in. It's going to be
forever.
It's going to be off chain. It's going to be off chain on my computer. But there is a social consensus here, right? That's the difference. It's a social consensus. All right, 3. No, I don't hear any. Yeah, speak now for a holy peace. 3, 2,
1-0. Yes, go
1.
ahead.
All right, it's done. It's getting green now.
Oh, yeah.
The consensus has been reached. All right, that's our first big decision.
We got a lot done there. Yay!
Yeah, it took us an hour and a half to get this one done. It's super productive. All right, and the last thing to discuss, and we'll wrap things up, guys. Yeah, that's a win. Gotta celebrate successes. All right. So the last thing to discuss is just it's not much of a discussion. We just want to announce that we do have the next month or this month's meetup now on the calendar. So if you take a look on the meetup calendar and on Luma, our website, you'll see that on the 21st, Thursday, from 6 to 8, we have DeFi Safety who will be presenting, and we'll go through our usual agenda. So as this thing has been growing, I've been finding it easier and easier to find speakers. Of course, it wasn't hard. Well, Tony actually basically volunteered, so I didn't have to twist his arm very hard. But aside from him, it's been very easy to find speakers. Like once I tell people that we have Montreal DAO, and they see that they see that we have a Discord, they see that we run GM, and they see that we have a meetup page, and it's growing. Yeah, it's been very easy to actually find speakers. So I think imagine that when this thing is 2 times bigger, 5 times bigger, 10 times bigger, we can get bigger and bigger, and projects involved, and it's going to and I think it's and I think we're going to deliver even more and more value to the community, and obviously that benefits each of us individually as well, as we can just learn turn that flywheel and learn even faster as we get more people involved. So let's do our best to promote these events. I think I'm going to publish it in a published event. I've already. I'm going to promote it on Twitter. But again, the more people we get to these events, the big, the faster we can grow the community. We're looking for that positive feedback loop, right? So we want to try to grow this thing as fast as possible. So let your friends know, or let your, colleagues, whoever wants to learn about crypto, Web 3.0, DeFi, to join our events. And I think we got to start planning for an in-person event, right? Thankfully, now that I got Corona, I don't have to worry about being in person anymore. So at least for a couple months. So yeah, I think we should definitely plan an in-person event, and I think that's going to involve reaching out to some of our partners here in Montreal, so that we could borrow some of their facilities, right? So that we can so we don't have to rent a hall and spend money. Yeah, and that we can just borrow a corporate office somewhere, or use a co-working space, and bring together people. But maybe let's discuss that more next week, as we can begin to this will take about a month sort of plan. But I think we should definitely put that on the to-do list. All right, folks.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Houston, for doing all this.
Awesome. You're welcome. Well, everyone, over the weekend, over the next week, please, log in the Notion site, drop your thoughts on the mission on the mission statement. All right, what's there? How we can tweak it, because I think that's the next. I think we need to get that decided, and then I think that's just going to make life a lot easier for everything we do moving forward.
Yeah, I just put down a few brainstorming ideas just now.
Awesome. All right. Well, Marius, thank you. Naga, thank you. Ted, Tony, thank you so much. And Ted, if you're not on Discord, join our Discord group. Naga, thank you. If you're not on our Discord group, join our Discord, and I'd love to talk to you some more on our Discord channel.
Thanks, everybody. Have a good weekend.
Thanks, everyone. Yeah.
Yes.
You too.
Fantastic weekend all. Take care.
Ciao, guys.
Yeah. Bye.
Bye, folks.
Bye.
Bye now.